Could we just get the shot and us just going like this at the opener? Ready? And catch. Oh, you were supposed to catch it.
I was looking at the camera.
Oh dear. Don't hurt yourself.
And we're back for Better Call Matt. Alrighty, we are back for Better Call Matt, where we take youth pastors' questions, their stories, and we have answer to those questions. And today we're excited to have Pastor Shaddye on. He's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for a while now.
Long time.
And just tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah.
Kind of who you are, your family, what kind of ministry you're doing.
Yeah.
How long you been in ministry.
So I'm coming up on, I just passed 7 years in ministry.
Wow, 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years of being full-time ministry.
Primarily youth?
Yep, primarily youth. So I did 7 years at a church. It was City Church, then Church Home, and loved it. Did high school ministry, youth ministry, all of it, college ministry, and then transitioned in August to Northwest University, where I'm the campus pastor there and been leading the campus ministry. And yeah, it's been super fun. My family grew up in Auburn, Washington, and near you in Kent. Did you grow up in Kent?
Yeah, Renton.
Yeah, Renton, Kent.
Yeah.
So, we're from the hood, both of us.
Yeah.
But then I got out of the hood. Now I'm in Bothell with my wife. She's incredible. Her name's Christy, and we got 3 kids, man. Asa, Shiloh, and Lily, our newest, 2 months old. So
I love it. Well, dude, thanks for being on the show today. We're going to take some calls for some youth pastors.
Let's do it.
I think we actually have a call right now. So we already have a call on. Let's go ahead and let Pastor Justice is on. I'm going to pick it up. Hey, Pastor Justice. Pastor Justice, let's put him up on the speaker here. Pastor Justice, you're on Better Call Matt.
Oh, what's up, man?
What's up? Hey, tell us who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been doing youth ministry.
So where I'm at, I'm in New Jersey. I'm at a church called Bethany Church in North Jersey. So we're like 20 minutes from Manhattan. Been doing youth ministry for about 5 years, and we've been here for coming up on 3 years.
Okay.
So.
Wow. So youth ministry for about half a decade now. And tell us your story. What do you got for us?
Oh, man. So like the funny story, I guess, we had a student, we gave them a game to run. We had 2 kids that are leaders, encouragers, just very energetic. And the game, we had one of those spacers where you put it in your mouth, and they had to sing a song essentially. So we gave them the songs, we gave them the layout, we practiced everything, and then we released them in the wild to lead this game. And it was like an absolute dumpster fire. One of them's our PK, and he started saying stuff so out of pocket and inappropriate on stage. And I was just like, I'm going to lose my job. And so I guess in that moment, I was thinking, okay, we see the natural gifting. We see the ability to do something to lead that moment. And there was corrective conversation after. But I guess my question is, when empowering students to lead the ministry, because I feel like that's when we've been seeing the most fruit, is when kids feel like it's their place to lead. It's their place to not just show up and participate in something, but really own it. I want to make sure I'm not burdening them with too much, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we are empowering them with responsibilities. Like this is not just a youth group. This is your youth group. This is the place you're leading. So I guess when it comes to making sure we're sharing those moments, because like you can see natural gifting, obviously there has to be training and coaching, but I guess I wrestle with that tension of not wanting to put too much on their plate, but at the same time, not assume that I know exactly how much they can handle. So I guess I don't know if that makes sense there.
No, great question, Pastor Justice. Pastor Shaddye, I'll let you kind of speak to this a little bit. You've had some great years of youth ministry and some rich seasons of youth ministry. What are some of those moments you found yourself, like in those seasons that you felt like, man, we're thriving, the students, they're being empowered, they're doing the work of the ministry. What did those seasons look like for you?
Yeah. I think those seasons first start with discipleship. So all of the stuff that they do on stage, anything that they lead, any sort of ministry moments that students get, I always see that as a result of discipleship, and it comes alongside that. So anytime there's a student that's on stage, man, we've been in conversation, we've had coffee however many times. They've come to the church early, they're showing up. There's a sense of consistency there with this student and coachability. And so when you had that grounding of discipleship, you at least know, like you're saying, when you have to have those harder coaching or corrective conversations, there's already that relationship there, and there's already some sort of rapport that you have to say, hey, let's think about it this way. Even working with college students now, it's like sometimes you got to wait a week to say anything and not say it right away.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think it's all centered around discipleship and what that looks like with the particular student.
Yeah. And in your context of ministry, I always remember you had you engaged sports kids. How did you see that consistency of empowering sharp leaders? And often when you empower sharp leaders in your church, they're also leaders in the community.
Yeah.
How did you balance that balance?
Yeah. No, that's so good. Number one, I've coached football and track pretty much every year except for 1 year since 2016. So the second I graduated college, I started coaching track and field at Lake Washington High School. It was the big high school 2 minutes from the church where most of our students came from, and we really wanted to make an impact on that campus. And so I knew by being a coach, I was going to have influence with my sports background. And so I wanted to use that to my advantage. And so anytime we had big athletes or just whatever athletes, I wanted to use my sports background or even just coaching background to make that connection. So that's really kind of where that door opened.
And really, it's cool because you were empowering students through the avenues that you naturally connected in.
Yes.
And so even connecting to the avenues that you naturally do, and then finding those kids, and then then how you can empower them even within the gift mixes they have, the time constraints they have, all that.
And I'll say this to that. Literally just this last year in May, from February to May, we had track season. And some of our key youth students who are they hosted youth at their homes, and now that they have a club at their school, I remember showing up and seeing them at practice and seeing how I could tell that they were somewhat afraid of being who they really are as believers and youth leaders on this big track team of over 220 athletes. It was just intimidating to really be a person of faith. And so me being there was almost like a sense of I don't want to necessarily say security, but it gave them a little bit more confidence that I can connect my friends with my youth pastor right here on campus and on the team. And so that actually became a huge avenue to have conversations with students who had walked away from God, who wanted nothing to do with church, who were curious about church. Some of them didn't tell me until 4 months later they knew I was a youth pastor, and they had come to church 3 years ago, but they just hadn't come back. And so getting in those unique spaces, I think, is so huge.
No, that's huge. And then justice just naturally, like you're saying, with those different mishaps in ministry and stuff said over the microphone, those are the minute things compared to what they're becoming as Christians and Christ followers. And as you're empowering them to live out their faith, then on those other conversations, they seem so much smaller because, as Pastor Shaddye's saying, you're doing life with them, you're spending time with them. Hey, half the time they'll know when they get off the stage, I missed it. So you'll still want to be encouraging them then because 99% of the time they know they missed it. They don't need us to just ream in. I can't believe you did that. Why'd you do that? And I had to stop myself from doing that. Take a few deep breaths and go, okay. They're junior hires or high schoolers. I do dumb things, sometimes. And I say things on the stage, I missed that. And so just giving a lot of grace and knowing that as you're doing life with them, as you're empowering them to be Christians, then the second part of empowering them to do the work of ministry is a lot more manageable and not as intense as it seems to be when you're not putting all your identity on what the kids can do for you, but more who they're becoming in that. So hopefully that answers a little bit, Pastor Justice. Did that help a little bit?
Oh, that helped a ton.
Okay, great.
A lot of good insight and a lot of wisdom.
Well, hey, we haven't done this before yet on the episode, but we actually have a question coming in here. Someone wrote in, and they wanted to be anonymous here because it's a pretty serious thing. Would you mind just staying on the phone here, and maybe you can help us answer this question?
Okay, sure.
Okay, cool. So this person just submitted this. I better call Matt. Hey, Matt, I'm in a tough spot and could use some advice. I've been serving at this church, and while they've been great moments, I've also been dealing with a lot of anxiety. Over time, I've started noticing some deeper issues within the church that don't sit right with me, and out of respect, I think it may be time to leave. This whole back and forth has led me to some serious burnout, and I'm feeling the weight of trying to stay loyal while also realizing my mental health might be at stake. I still feel called to youth ministry, but I know I need to step back and heal. So here's my question. How do you know when it's time to step away, even if you still love the people and the work? And how do you leave without burning bridges when your reason is more about health than anything else? Thanks for your guidance, a worn-out youth pastor. What do you guys think? Pastor Justice, I know you've had a transition before from Washington over to where you're at now. I mean, transitions don't always have to be a bad thing. This one here seem like it's a pretty tough one. What are some principles around transitions that we can help this person writing in right now, whether it's good transitions, bad transitions, anything you guys have, any input you'd give this person who wrote in?
I think my heart goes out to that youth pastor because it can be very easy to get into that mode of doing so much for the Lord that you feel like you're kind of almost empty because you're pouring out so much. And so my encouragement, number one, would be, I think as long as everything that you're doing is with the aim of honoring the Lord, that really builds the bridge for honoring the leaders, right? Even though
It's good.
I just think about, Tale of Three Kings, David anointed to be king, and yet he still, even though he's being attacked, accused, and chased after by King Saul, refuses to touch the Lord's anointed. So I think it's very possible to disagree and still operate with honor.
That's good.
And at the same time, I think having conversations with some safe voices that can speak life into you, because many times if we're looking for negativity, if we're looking for the issues, if we're looking for toxicity, whatever we look for, we tend to find. And so if that's what you've been keying in on, then you're going to see a lot more of it. However, I think you need to have someone, maybe the DYD, which is why you're messaging Matt, to speak life into you, but also give you that kind of 3,000-foot view of what are your best next steps. And then I think the best way to not burn bridges is to do your job with excellence. Don't work as if you're about to leave, but work as if you're going to be there for the next 10 years. And give them no reason to say, oh, he should have left a while ago because he checked out mentally. If everything you're doing is worship unto the Lord, there's a way to exit out that you'll still be able to be welcomed back. And your health is priority. But I think if your outpouring is not matching what you're pouring in or allowing the Lord to pour in, and that's a lot of time where I typically feel burnout. So I don't know the full situation you're going through, but that's where I feel burnout most of the time, is when what I'm pouring out is not matching my time in isolation with the Lord.
Wow.
Really
That
good.
is so good.
Man.
You got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just
That was great.
add this. I recently transitioned from a role I was in for 7 years to a new role. And I could say, even in my transition, I remember getting a word from an elder. His name is Bob Stone. I'm not sure if you would know Bob Stone.
Oh, yeah.
Pastor Bob.
Yeah.
But he told me, when you are looking for God's direction and what's next, and I talked to him, this was probably in April. He was coming in as a guest teacher in my master's program. And I was recognizing, man, I'm coming up on 7 years at this church and just wondering, God, like, what is next? What does the next 7 years look like? Is it meant to be here? Are you going to be leading me to something new? And he told me this. He said, hey, you need to make sure, if you want to get direction for what's next, you have to leave, or you have to go from a place of health. Like, God's not going to lead you to a new place while you're unhealthy. And so essentially what he was saying, to even go along with this question, is sometimes God wants you to get healthy where you're at before he takes you to where you're going.
Wow. No, that's
Because
really great.
he wants you to be healthy in the next place that you go, rather than show up in the next place unhealthy, and then you're trying to recover in a new place, and you end up bringing that toxicity with you in your new place.
Yeah.
And so he told me Psalm 23, he said 3 things about it. He said, number 1, you need to go where it's green and where there's water. Something happens, God restores your soul, God does something to your spirit where he's like, I don't know what it is. He's like, in my older age, I've seen that happen. So number 1, going to where it's green. He restores your soul there. Number 2 is where it actually says, in that space is where you get that restoration. And then out of that restoration, verse 3 of Psalm 23 says, he leads me in paths of righteousness. So essentially he was saying God's leadership comes from a place of restoration. It's going to be very hard to see where God is leading you if you have not been restored by him. So that would be my encouragement to this person is, how can you take time, get margin, and get healthy where you are now so that God can speak to you from a place clearly. So whatever that decision is made, it's not from toxicity, it's not from unruly disagreement or negativity or toxicity like Justice was saying, but it's from a place of health. And you can leave in honor, you can leave in a good space. So that's what I would say.
Man, such great input, both you guys, and just the theme you guys are both kind of saying here, and just what I keep hearing is that what you leave with, you bring with you.
Yeah.
And so, like, whatever you're leaving with, if it's that bitterness or you're not leaving with honor, as Pastor Justice is saying, you're going to bring that in to the next season. So you got to take care of that stuff so you can plant good things into the next one. And so, no, that's huge. And not to downplay, we don't know the whole situation. There could be some really brutal stuff going on, but at the end of the day, we're still called to honor, and we're still called to leave with the fruit of the Spirit.
Right.
And so, in that way. So, hey, Pastor Justice, thank you so much for your input, for your question, but also your input on this youth pastor writing in. Appreciate you. Thanks for calling in today.
Of course.
We'll talk
Thanks
soon.
for giving me the time.
Of course.
See ya.
Peace, dude.
Wow, that was amazing. Yeah, no,
That's
really,
great.
really great input. Great question. Kaylee, it looks like we have another person on the line here. Oh, okay, great. That's awesome.
Let's get it.
As we're putting them on here, and I didn't even think about that. Like, you literally just had a transition. I mean, 7 years, and now you're going into NU here, and so it can be good transitions, bad transitions, but whatever it is, there's still those principles of that honor and how you're leaving and all that stuff.
Yeah, so
that's
crucial.
awesome. Love it. All right, so let's go ahead and take our next caller. All right, so it looks like we got another caller, Kaylee. Yep, we do. Okay, we got Pastor Derek in. Pastor Derek, why don't you say who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been doing youth ministry?
Hello. My name is Derek. I'm based in Seattle. I
Love it.
serve on the youth team at Church Home. So I've been there as a volunteer for a couple years, but just recently joined staff. So super pumped in this season of transition. Really excited to be working with these kids.
I love that, and we're actually talking about transitions right now, so it's great. I think this just fits so perfect for this episode because we have Pastor Shaddye here. We just was talking to someone else about transitions, and I just think this is just beautiful how Pastor Shaddye, you've stepped out. Now we're on the phone with someone who's now taking your job. So I mean, even I know you got a question, but talk through there a little bit. How it's so healthy, and we don't get to see that very often, where you could even have 2 people on a call even after that transition. Tell me a little about how that came and how to create that healthy transition we're talking about.
Yeah.
No, honestly, it was such a big thing with God. I think just allowing, because I was serving underneath Shaddye for such a long time, for a few years, and just watching him and learning from him. And so when he stepped out and took this new transition, it was like God was really kind in preparing me in that role.
That's great. That's awesome. I love that. Anything you have to input on that too?
Yeah, I think number 1, it was recognizing before I ever even got to a place of like, hey, Derek, like, I see that you're gifted in this way. I see that you can lead people really well, lead students. Here's like more leadership, on the team, and leadership even over leaders. It was noticing, even while I was on staff, there was times when Derek would show up to set up Sunday morning before I did. He was always like the most communicative leader I had. I could always count on him. Sometimes, it's like the day of, you just, man, so-and-so is supposed to be here. Where are they at? That's youth ministry in a box right there. It's like leaders saying they're showing up and they don't show up. He was always showing up. And it was just in the minute little things. Derek can also lead worship really, really well. but it wasn't the stuff that Derek did on stage
There it is.
that was like, oh man, he can preach really well. He's really, really theological. No, it was all the intangible things which required character. And so that's when it was like, all right, bro,
Yeah.
you're gonna lead the middle school ministry. So he led our middle school ministry last year, and did that. And I kind of just was like, he was a volunteer, but handed that off to Derek, and he took it and ran with it. And so I had in mind, not that I was going to be transitioning anytime soon, but that I did want somebody who could be on the inside and see, like, if I'm not around, you can go to Derek and he knows everything that I know about, number one, the building, number two, how to run everything, number three, the heart and the spirit of what we're doing. Just in case anything happens, there's somebody that can be the person that steps in. And he was that as a volunteer, and now he's doing it in a staff role. So
And it's exactly what we were talking about with our last caller, Pastor Justice, about empowering people. And you were just showing now how you were empowering him. He was right there on your side the whole time.
Yeah.
He's watching you. You're doing life with him, all that stuff. That's cool. So, hey, Pastor Derek, share us with your story of youth ministry story and maybe a question that's coming out of it.
Definitely. I just reconnected with a student who comes to Seattle for the summer every year, and we're going to play a game of FIFA. And so I grew up playing this game, and I'm like, okay, there's no way I'm going to let this 13-year-old beat me, right?
FIFA 98, that's what I had on Nintendo 64, but now I'm
Exactly.
aging myself. So anyways, keep going.
No,
Yeah,
seriously. And I grew up on like FIFA 14, 16, all that kind of
go.
stuff.
Okay, 14,
But anyways, I
16,
sit down,
so a
I
little
play
bit
this
different
game, and he cooks me, like absolutely destroys me. And I just had to recognize, oh, wow, times are changing. I have to be a little bit more humble. But on that topic of humility, I was wondering, as you guys are stepping into different transition seasons in your life, how do you maintain that heart of humility while also honoring your leadership and the vision that has been set before you, that God has entrusted you with?
So how do you move forward but still honor Shaddye's past stuff he left with you? No, I'm just kidding.
Or just in general, you know? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's always
yeah.
that tension of, like, you're excited and you have this burning heart for what God might be wanting to do in the future, but also honoring the things of the past and humbling and not just trying to do your own thing, but really being cohesive with the leadership as well.
That's a great question.
Really good.
You know, I just always want it to be said about me that I never stopped growing and that I was always curious. And I think how to honor people that have gone before you, people in your ministry that you've inherited, you're just coming in, you have all these dreams, what God wants, and maybe they're there and they're not really, I don't know if I like that. At the end of the day, you can never go wrong with leading with curiosity and questions. To continue, I mean, I call it lingering leadership, you know, to just ask a lot of questions. Don't try to resolve too quickly, and just try to be curious about why do we do certain things that we do? Why did that start? Why did we do that? And as you start getting more of that stuff, it's going to be easier for you to honor leadership. It's going to be easier for you to move forward because you're able to honor the past because you're getting the why behind the things that you're doing. And we can always honor the why in church when we're on board and we love what the why. I mean, you're at church home because you believe in the why. And so when you can get it with that of like, here's why we do what we do, you're able to lead through that on a whole nother level because you have context to lead with. And I think too often we rush right in, at least with me. Maybe I'm just speaking with my leadership. But hey, God's given me a vision. I've had my prayer time, creating margin in my life. I know the heart of God. I get the Spirit of God saying, move in this direction. And all of a sudden, boom, wall, hurdle. And in those moments, I just want to knock them right over. I want to run right through those hurdles. But we've got to stop a moment and really learn, grow, figure out what's really going on underneath all the surface of people's lives and our teams and leadership. And with that, we're able to really lead in a whole nother realm, whole nother level, and making the best decisions. Not always my decisions, and not always what the right decisions for certain people, but the best decisions as we move forward as a team. So, yeah, you got any thoughts around that?
Yeah, no, I really agree with what Matt said, and that's so real. And even speaking to my own situation, I'm walking into a transition where I am coming into a position where I'm now leading a department where where the previous person that was leading and overseeing the department is still in the department. And she's incredible, but recognizing, man, how I am honoring everything she's led and done and pioneered and started while she's still there. And you can imagine, even if I have things that I'm like passionate to do or passionate to change, I need to get her trust. Like, I need to win her over before I should be trying to get my, things that I want and things that I want to do done. I think the more important thing is the relationship and is getting to a place where you're trustworthy. Can your leaders trust you? And I wish I would have done that better at my role at Church Home. I wish I would have invested more into really taking more time to make informed decisions, having more conversations with people, instead of trying to do things from a impulsive place. Like, oh, I see that need, and then I go and I try and make a quick decision and a quick change. I end up losing the emphasis on what actually needs to be done because I haven't really, number one, taken the be still and know that I am God. Man, that's so crucial in youth ministry, be still. Yeah. How long can you be still? And when it's time to jump, you'll know. And you'll have people asking you to jump. I had a meeting today where it was like, all right, man, like, new semester, like, here's some things that I'm wanting you to kind of do, make decisions on. And it's like, I could have tried to push this 2 months ago, 3 months ago when I started, but I didn't. Now 90 days later, it's like, hey bro, like, it's time to jump. We're on board. Let's do it. Like, let's go. And I would much rather be in that place than in the place where it's like, I am now trying to convince you after I've already made the decision of the change. And now your credibility is on the line.
Wow. And how many meetings do we sit in that are like that?
Exactly. So
no, that's huge.
My thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, so much, so good. No, that's great. Anything you have to add as you're hearing this, Pastor Derek?
Yeah, I think what you guys are saying is so true. Just having that open mind, and in times of transition, it's really about caring for the people around you and the people you're leading rather than so much the direction you're trying to go. Because even how the Lord would lead shepherds, like the metaphor of Psalms 23 in the Old Testament, the most direct path to the green pastures are straight line up a hill, but that'd be too steep for the sheep. So what he would do is he would lead them step by step in almost a circular direction, like a helix, and not force them beyond their measure or beyond their strength or capacity. I think that gentle step by step is something that has been on my mind a lot.
That's good.
And walking at their pace, not at the pace that you feel the Spirit calling you to.
That is
That's a word, bro.
That is a word. I'm still, man. I'm putting that in a message soon. That's great. No, I love it. Hey, Pastor Derek, thank you so much for jumping in.
Thanks,
and
dude.
for the call, and we'll
Thanks for
talk
your
to you
insights
soon.
and taking it with me.
Appreciate you, dude.
There.
Appreciate you. Bye. Wow. Well, hey,
That was fun.
this was good. I mean, it goes so quick too, but
Yeah.
some great questions, awesome answers. Appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, dude.
Hey,
Thanks
real
for having
quick,
me.
tell us. I know you said what you do, but how can someone connect to Northwest University if they're a college student? They're looking at universities.
Yeah.
How can they connect?
Please come on the website, Northwest U, and go to Campus Ministries. Send me an email. Hit me up.
Right.
Love to chat with you guys. We have so many things happening on campus and cool things that are happening next year. I would love to personally talk to you if you're interested.
I love it. The campus is right there in Kirkland, Washington.
Kirkland.
It's beautiful. So,
Great
hey.
spot.
Well, hey, if we don't see you back at Kirkland on campus, we'll see you back on Better Call Matt for next time as we take your questions and we do the best we can to answer them. We'll see you back on here, Better Call Matt, next time.
Peace.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.